Stunning new revelations and another possible connection between suspected killer Bryan Kohberger and college students killed at the University of Idaho. Sources tell People magazine that in the weeks leading up to the November slayings in Moscow, suspect Bryan Kohberger ate at the restaurant where two of the victims worked. A former employee at the Mad Greek says that Kohberger came in at least twice. He stood out because of his strict vegan diet. Now, it's unclear if either Madison Mogen or Xana Kernodle ever waited on Kohberger. Law enforcement told People that they're aware of the visits and are collecting surveillance video. This revelation comes just days after a source said that Kohberger had direct messaged at least one of the victims on Instagram multiple times, but never got a response. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were stabbed to death in their off-campus home. More than a month later, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. He'd been attending Washington State University pursuing a PhD in criminology. He was extradited back to Idaho and now faces murder charges. My co-host Bryan Buckmeyer, Terry Austin, they join me now. It's good to see you both. Terry, I'll start with you. Social media may have led Kohberger straight to the victims, but the question now is, what can people do? What can they do to protect themselves on platforms like TikTok and Instagram?
Well, we don't know for a fact that social media did lead the investigators to Kohberger or led Kohberger to the victims, but we do know that you can protect yourselves. You can be self-protective. In other words, don't put personally identifiable information on your social media. There's no reason to put your date of birth down for any app that you're using, and there's no reason to put the location on unless you are in a lift and someone needs to find you. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that social media companies should be held responsible for some of the content that goes on. Right now there's a federal law, Section 230, and it says that social media content is just something that the individuals who post are now responsible for. So there are things that you can do.
Well, hopefully people take that advice. Bryan, let's just go back to Kohberger for a second, because every week we learn a little bit more about his connections to the victims. How is this going to affect the June preliminary hearing that we talked about?
Well, Jesse, I think it's all going to come in. The preliminary hearing isn't just based on what they knew at the time of his arrest or when he was arraigned. It's everything coming up to that June 26th. And hey, I've been trying to find angles. I know I'm the resident defense attorney here, but as the circumstantial evidence starts to pile on top of itself, I cannot see a way out for Bryan Kohberger here. It seems like every angle, every bit of information, every little bit of source is pointing to the direction that he's a predator and might have been stalking his prey.
Never good when Bryan Buckmeyer can't find a defense. That's always bad news. I should tell you that Law&Crime Daily has also learned that the judge in Latah County, Idaho, has amended the gag order that was already in place. You see, the updated order now prohibits attorneys representing the victims' families from discussing anything about the case publicly. You might recall that when Kohberger was arrested in December, the judge put an order in place saying that anyone involved with the case, like attorneys and law enforcement, couldn't talk to the media, but now that extends to the families of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan. This comes after interviews from outspoken parents and lawyers were seen by people all over the world. The order lasts until there's a verdict or the judge decides to amend the order again.